Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm going to go ahead and call tonight's meeting to order. If you'll please rise and cite the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, our land acknowledgement. Director Bradford's going to read that for us.
Evergreen Public Schools resides on the traditional lands of the Chinookan peoples and the Cowlitz tribe. They have lived on and cared for this land and its waterways since time immemorial. We thank them for their stewardship and make this acknowledgement to open a space of recognition, inclusion, and respect for all Indigenous students, families, and staff in our community.
Thank you, Director Bradford. Okay. Next is tonight's agenda. Move for a motion.
I move to approve tonight's agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next is our board consent agenda. Entertain a motion.
Move adoption of the board's consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving right along. Next is the superintendent's consent agenda. Entertain our motion.
I move for approval of the superintendent consent agenda as presented.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next is our superintendent report.
Thank you. Just a few quick things. We were able to sell $60 million worth of bonds today as part of our $695 million bond package that was passed by the voters. And so we'll be having a report at the next board meeting to give you some specifics. I did send you the PDF that was sent by the company that helped us sell the bonds. So that's excited. It was a good day for that today. And just as a reminder, bonds can only be used for buildings and on capital projects. So that money will come in handy to give us cash flow to finish all of the projects that we started off in that bond measure. All just very excited. I was at two buildings today, Frontier and Pioneer, and I have been visiting principals and just talking about challenges and successes, and their challenges are many, staffing shortages and among other challenges they're facing, but in every instance, our principals are really leaning into the focus of ambitious instruction, particularly around math, and it's excited watching teachers really use our brand new curriculum, particularly at Pioneer today, and seeing the productive struggle of the students around math and how they're really working with the students to get them to learn the conceptual understanding of the math is just it's been just a brilliant thing to see. So I'm just real proud of that work. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Jennifer Jacobson and I are working on a timeline to come up to take to work session with the board related to future budget reductions. So you can look forward to that coming up in a work session at us pretty soon. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. Next, we have the department updates. First up is facilities. I believe Sue is giving report tonight.
Yeah, that would be good. I just have to, you can plug me in. I just got to pull the right one up here.
And you said you'll use this mic? Or this one?
I can use a handheld one.
Can you make it go up there? Thanks. Good evening, everybody. It's been a while since I've given a facilities presentation, so I am excited to be here again. It's going to be a little different this time because all of our major projects are going to be complete by the end of December. You can see that little red line there on the right-hand side. We'll be wrapping up the site work at ASC, the site work at Heritage. We've still got some at Mountain View. Burton will be moving in at the end of over winter break, which we're excited about. You can see these kind of shaded in areas. Those were our original schedules. So you can see we moved up Mountain View a little bit. We moved up Burton a little bit. And then everything in red is the work that we were able to add by resolution for additional projects because of the bond savings that we've been able to manage. So really excited about that. It's kind of nice to think about things that are wrapping up. There's still a lot of closeout that will happen just in getting the projects, all intents and affidavits and everything paid off. The one thing I do want to bring to your attention, the orchestra room additions at Evergreen and Union, we recommend that we do that through an alternative procurement method just because of the supply chain issues and long lead. Just knowing what we're working with on the Skilled Trade Center, trying to get a transformer is about a year out. So if we can work with the contractor ahead of time to do some of that early procurement, I think that would be a wise decision. So look for that. We'll have to submit a resolution. The board will have to approve that, and then we'll go up to the CPARB in Olympia and see if we can get that approved. So what I want to kind of move away from is just give you kind of an overview of some examples of our guiding principles that we use. These, as you recall, when we started the bond, we kind of met with stakeholders in the community to kind of identify what were important to the community as we were building new schools. These are listed as standalones, but they're really not. They're all woven together, as you'll see when I kind of run through them. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples of each one. The ones that are underlined there are the ones we did workshops on, and those links are there if you want to look at them. So community partnerships, we've been working hard on family resource centers. I'm excited to be working with Jamila and another bunch of other stakeholders to look at how we can improve that across all schools. Our new schools all have family resource centers, and those have spaces for food. Some of them have laundry facilities, clothing. They're called different things. Some of them, like at Mountain View, it's Mandry's Pantry. So as far as community engagement, we continue to work with Parks and Rec on our partnerships with our shared parks and school facilities. Public meetings here at ASC have been really popular. We designed this space to allow more interaction with the public. The Audubon Society's been here. The Fish and Wildlife does their volunteer training here, which is kind of cool. We've had neighborhood meetings here, which is great. And there have been a few public meetings. We've also worked with fire and police on destructive and non-destructive training in schools, which is a really great opportunity for them to be able to practice active shooter exercises in a real school. They don't ever get that opportunity. So we'll likely do that again when we tear Burton down. So it's kind of fun. We always make sure and let the neighborhood know what we're doing so nobody gets scared. Equity inclusion, this is really, you can see this, the kind of the statement up there, I belong. We want all students and staff to feel they belong, they feel valued, welcome, feel like they have a voice and feel safe. And this is where it all kind of weaves together with safety and security, all of the other guiding principles. So we looked at not just at the physical, usually people think of equity as a physical thing, physical barriers. We looked at all of those. Clarissa and her team introduced the equity lens, and we use that religiously with our decision-making process to understand who's impacted, who are the stakeholders we need to be talking to, kind of walking through the 5 steps of the equity lens, which has been really, really helpful. We did engage with some stakeholders. We met a couple times with affinity groups at the end of last year, so I look forward to more of that this year now that COVID is kind of getting behind us a little bit. And some of the strategies we work to try and incorporate just warm wayfinding, a warm and welcoming entrance is creating better wayfinding so kids feel safe. We've created a lot more opportunities for kids to display their work, because if they don't see themselves or the things that they're proud of, they don't really feel a part of the building. Some of our furniture, adjustable furniture, kind of creates classrooms that are adaptable, although we learned early in our pilot that we have to be careful about making sure that everybody has access to the flexible furniture, because sometimes only some kids get the cool furniture. So that was a good aha. We were able to engage a couple of our consultants by changing our procurement to request as part of the RFP that they submit what they're doing for equity and inclusion. I was shocked on I think it was our transportation. Out of 9 submittals that we got, only 6 architects answered the question. Granted, it was only 5 points out of 100, but still that kind of tells you where we're at. So we've learned a lot through that process. The next one is fiscal responsibility. I kind of put those things to the right there, the capital renewal, how they all kind of work together. Really, our goal is to be a good steward of the taxpayers' dollars, and that means not just the upfront cost, but the total cost of ownership. The upfront cost is only a small percentage of what the building costs over time. If you look at, like if you were to buy a car, right? Capital renewal is the acquisition or building a new asset. The initial cost is one thing, but you've also got to put fuel in it, whether that's gas or electricity. You've got to pay insurance. There's the gift that keeps on giving over time. And then infrastructure maintenance, you might need to replace a transmission or have a flat tire. It doesn't increase the value of the car. It's still the same car. It does have some features in it, but really looking at how that all goes together. And then that second bullet there, designing realistic buildings that meet the expectations of our community. A lot of that is just knowing who we're driving, like who are the people, what kind of road are we going to be on? So kind of the analogy of the car. I like to think it was good planning, but we did get kind of lucky on the timing of some of our projects with COVID and the private side kind of slowing down a little bit. So I think the prototypical model was also a really good example of being a good steward. Just saves, kind of streamlines things. It makes it so that our maintenance team is familiar with one building instead of 7 different buildings. Sustainability and resiliency. That's, again, the prototypical model really helped us to kind of streamline things. I'm excited you'll be seeing here in the next, we've still got a couple more months, but we work with the Energy Trust of Oregon and with Clark PUD to work on incentives. We just got a $49,000 check today for boilers at Cascade and Union. So we'll bring them in. We're expecting some more on almost all of our HVAC projects. And then Marty's working with the PUD on some CLIP rebates for replacing lighting. And our newer projects have those too. It just takes a little while because you've got to get a year of energy information before you get the money. So we'll bring them in with the big check and kind of celebrate those successes. Personalized learning, of course, that's what we're all about, right? It's all about teaching and learning. That's what we do. Some of the things, we try to incorporate the building as the third teacher, where we put clear plexiglass in the wall so that kids could see the manifold and where the water goes through. I always am moving filing cabinets out of the way because those get covered up. But we really worked hard on trying to make sure, like at Y East and Mountain View, you can see into the STEM program. So it's right front and center, really trying to encourage people to enter those spaces, wonder about what happens in those rooms. We've also done a lot of work with nature play. Not every kid wants to be on a structure, and so many of our kids don't have access to the outdoors. So nature play has really been helpful with getting kids to engage. Some kids don't want to be, they want to just like trace a wormhole on a log, and that's perfectly fine. We want to provide opportunities for all kids. And also acknowledging that different personalities, so often in design, you don't always hear the best ideas, you hear the ideas from the most vocal people, and kind of recognizing that I think it's like 2/3 of people are introverted. So we created spaces with lower ceilings, places to kind of be still part of a group, but be able to kind of pull out a little bit for introverts. I happen to be married to one and have one for a son, so I know how that works. Safety and security. Back in June, Shane and Kyle and I gave you a presentation on safety and security, and I really want to emphasize that sentence in bold. If we want to improve student outcomes, our schools need to feel safe and like a place for learning. So we really focused hard on not hardening the perimeter, but creating those concentric rings of safety to slow the person down. We also looked at, you can see external and internal threats, self-harm, threats to property, and environmental threats as part of our safety. I think so often people think of safety and go right to an active shooter event. But what we learned through the process is that so many of our own kids internally, if they're not feeling part of the school environment, those are the kids that are really struggling and have outbreaks. And I know we're having a lot of behavioral issues at the schools. I wish we could do something in the building to help them. But even like at Y East, making sure our hallway is wide enough that kids aren't bumping each other as they're going down through the hallways. That is the last guiding principle. Does anyone have any questions?
Have you had a chance to talk to students about the new facilities, the new buildings, getting their feedback?
No, I'm glad you brought that up. We are working with WSU Vancouver to do a research project to get the students at Burton to go through the existing Burton with their GoPros and take pictures and do an analysis, and then they'll do it again the following year in the new school. I'm glad you asked that, because that's what we really wanted, we've had a lot of feedback from adults, but we really want it from kids. So, and that's, Clarissa knows what IRB stands for. It's an official research-based project. I don't know what that stands for. It's hard to get, though, I know. What does IRB stand for? Oh, I guess I do know. I just know they all kind of, their eyebrows all went up when they all said, oh, we have to go through IRB. But really making sure that we had the permissions from the kids and the families and all that. So I'm excited for that.
IRB stands, I didn't hear Clarissa.
I think, is it?
Internal Review Board.
Internal Review Board.
Right.
Thank you.
You have to do research.
Yeah. So it'll be an unofficial, I think it'll be really cool. WSU is trying to figure out what works for kids. We're working with the librarian there.
Now, it was the case that students were involved in the design process and in the new schools, right? The community and students, Malum and
Malum did a really good job
Malum
of
did.
engaging kids. It was a little bit more difficult with the prototypical school to get, because they're all the same. Where they get involved is in like with the welcome wall, where they have a bunch of different words about what is important to the school, and they involve kids with that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Next, we have an update from Teaching and Learning and Equity. And I believe Clarissa Hightower has given that report tonight. Here she comes. Thank you.
You can sit down. I'll let you know. Okay. And we're live. All right. Good evening, Board of Directors, Superintendent Boyd. It is always a pleasure to be before you, representing the wonderful things that are going on in the Teaching, Learning, and Equity departments. So just as Dr. Williams and Nathan Lee and Ruth Begg shared with you last time we were together, the wonderful work of supporting our math goal through school improvement plans is still a-going. We are getting into math classrooms and having to look around and really enjoying some of the things that we are seeing as we get to be with students. What you're going to notice this evening is that there's a theme in the 4 updates that I have to share with you. And that theme is the elevation of student voice. Our youth, as all of you know, as well as our community, are brilliant, every single one of them. And when we challenge our youth and provide them with engaging things, right, and set our standards really high, while also providing them with the just right supports they need, our students can and will thrive. And you are going to hear a little bit of evidence of that as we share our updates for today. So in the spirit of supporting our math, our students in showing their scholarly selves in math, we have 2 students who are going to share with you a program that is student-led at Union called the Student STEM Program. And this is something that is fully led by students. Of course, they have an adult advisor that helps them, but this is something that is fully led by students, and they want to invite you into the program to potentially visit them as this is happening. So if our 2 students from Union High School would come up. Okay, here's how you advance the slide, and this is where you do it.
Okay, hi, members of the board. I'm Khalees Hightower. I'm a junior at Union.
I'm Jenna Fennerl, and I'm also a junior at Union.
And pretty much we just wanted to formally invite all of you to any of the sessions at STEM and just kind of give you some information. If you know about it already, then hopefully you learned something new. Or if you don't know anything about it at all, then we hope to show you something going on in our district. So essentially, what STEM is high schoolers come together and we divide amongst all the 7 schools that we partner with. First we have a brainstorming session, just kind of thinking about how we can do a project that is not only entertaining for kids, but also helps them learn a little bit into science, math, all the aspects of STEM. We brainstorm it, we do a little prototype, kind of, make sure it works. And then we go into each individual schools and execute them. And they're usually a lot of fun. It's always good to see them interacting with it, asking more questions to see how it works. And then afterwards, we do a debrief to see what we can work on better. Was this one a little too messy? Maybe we won't do slime anymore. Or did the kids seem to enjoy it? Did we need to add more science to it, et cetera? And then we make those adjustments as necessary. And this has been going on for about 9 years now, and it's been pretty great. So some of the stats that you're seeing up on the board is just how much of a wide range of students that we're impacting through this once a month interaction. It's 350 elementary schools across the 7 schools, elementary kids across the 7 schools, and 250 high schoolers that are getting divided amongst those 7 schools. And while, of course, STEM is essentially exposing kids of across the board, different diversities, different races, different genders to STEM starting at an early age, just to see what it even like, just to see if they're interested in it, and they seem to be. But it's also a really good opportunity for our high schoolers as students to be able to go and have this relationship with the student, to be able to be a mentor, to teach a leadership. And some students who are seniors now who have gone through STEM for all 4 years have been able to lead a whole session individually. It was something they probably would not have been able to do freshman year, which is allowing them to come out of their comfort zones. And the 4 original people that did start STEM have gone on to do amazing things afterwards, and it's pretty incredible once you think about it.
Okay, so STEM is currently active at 7 elementary schools in the Evergreen Public School District. These include Illahee, Harmony, Pioneer, Burnt Bridge Creek Elementary, Mill Plain, Columbia Valley, and Emerald. So these sessions happen every half day of the month. Those are listed on the screen. we send our high schoolers to the schools on those days. And at the end of the year, and the first week of June, we have an end of the year STEM event at Union. It's an all-day thing where the elementary schoolers bus to Union, and there are a bunch of different science stations, and they teach a wide range of different types of science. We have some that demonstrate physics or chemistry, and it's really fun. So each station is led by a high school student, a team of students, and each group of kids is led by students. So the entire program is student-run. We do have an advisor, Kelsey Burris, but besides that, it is led by a wonderful team of our STEM mentors and the rest of the STEM kids. So,
If you have any questions that are specific detailed, if you just anything that we may not be able to answer that would be better for an adult, you can contact our advisor, Mr. Burris, or if you do, or hopefully when you do want to attend one of the sessions, you can contact either me or Jenna directly, and we can meet you at one of those sessions to walk you through what a typical one would look like, maybe have you help with some of the kids in some of the groups, just to see how you work in best, make the whole experience of the combination of you two work. And we look forward to seeing you there, and that's about it. If you have any other questions.
9 years now?
Sorry. Forgot to add.
Oh, please, go ahead.
We have handouts of the information that we put on the screen that is likely to be forgotten. If you want them now.
Yeah, that's great.
Sure, they can disperse them.
So I have a question. Do you feel like when you're leading a group of the littles in the STEM process, and do you feel more that you gain more knowledge because you've had to make sure that you can be the teacher and really have the answers to the questions? How does that change your outlook on those topics?
I started STEM in sophomore year, so this is actually my second year, but the first year was definitely an adjustment because I also had to understand that some of these, some of the projects that we were simplifying, we also had to simplify the science down because we could go into deeper and deeper, and we're starting to talk about AP Physics stuff. But then we had to actually make sure that these were entertaining, concise, and actually provided the students with information. And then going up and being able to present it, keep students engaged and keep students on task and focused. And then by the end of the STEM session, being able to actually have completed 2 or sometimes just 1 labs is definitely a struggle because you want to make sure that it's fun for not only the high schooler but for the student, and it has definitely been hard, especially with the new position that we have now, because this PR marketing thing was not present last year. But
yeah, it just started this year, so
just based on our interests, we were like, this should be a thing, and then it got made into a leadership position, and this being our first act of what we should do to get the word out for what's going on.
I'm very fond of Mr. Burris.
he's a great.
He's my kid's teacher, and he's the best. And so this has been going on without a lot of marketing information in the community for 9 years.
Yeah, so
we have had a maintained Twitter account, but it was it was just Burris at the time, so it was limited on how much we could really how much we could diverse before discover through that. So we made other accounts saying things like this and making the word out. And then since even though we're just starting it now, we will soon build a team so they can go and take pictures, and then we can put them on other places so that it's everywhere. Before you look up, you're like, oh, it's done.
I hope the robotics kids get involved.
I think anytime there's an opportunity for our kids to work with younger students, it's fantastic. I think like kind of Victoria was saying, I think both parties gain a lot from it. But the mentorships are huge and especially getting our young students involved in math and science. And thank you for the invite. We'll check them out.
Thank you.
We'll definitely be
Thank
there.
you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Fantastic.
Good. Thank you, scholars. All right. In keeping with our dialogue around elevating student voice, several of our we have counselors represented here, teacher leaders, and administrators had the opportunity to attend the Courageous Conversation National Summit in our nation's capital. And one of the red threads through all of the breakout sessions as well as the master classes was this idea of elevating the voice of our youth. As we know, some of us, I don't even like to say I'm old because I'm not, but some of us who are not in our teens and 20s anymore begin to look to the youth to see what our futures will be. And so one of the things that we had the opportunity to do was get together as a group and really talk about what elevating the voices of our students would look like in the context of equity. As we know, it is the topic itself is something that we want to make sure we can have productive conversations around. And when we center the student voice and when we have a tool to use, such as the Courageous Conversation Protocol, it helps us to do that. So the people you see before you were able to attend. And on this evening, we have Colleen Schoonover, who is the counselor at Union, who attended, and she's going to share very briefly her experience with you all this evening.
Thank you. So I've been an educator in Evergreen Public Schools. This is my 18th year, and this opportunity is by far the most profound and truly life-changing professional development opportunities I've ever had. And I will be forever grateful for being able to represent our district at the national level as just a small little piece of the equity work that goes on in our district. Throughout my time there, I just kept finding myself saying, we need to do this, we could do this, like just over and over again. It was such an inspiring experience, and now feel this both responsibility and honor to bring back the work to then put forth here and to help others who couldn't attend do the same thing. While I was there, I had the opportunity to attend several sessions focused on how we can impact traditionally marginalized student voices and the need to create authentic affinity spaces for all students. I was able to hear from educators from all over the country, both urban and suburban communities, who have effectively done this and created programs that not only validate and celebrate student voice and identity, but also foster development as leaders and stewards of the community. Through their presentations, I was able to witness the power of these groups and activities, and this is something I feel very inspired to incorporate this year in my school, as well as see continue to grow across our district. Again, overall, just a real honor to be able to go and to represent Evergreen in a national format, and I really hope that I can continue to be a small part of this work here in our district.
Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen. Okay. Our third update is on October 14th, myself, Jamila Singleton, and our very own Dr. Williams had the amazing opportunity to stand before about 500 students, coaches, athletic directors, and officials, so referees, to talk about sportsmanship and culturally responsive athletics. And so what does that mean? And why did we do that? We are wanting to make sure that our students, as they are in competition with one another, still are able to understand that the way that they interact with each other on the field can also impact how they interact off the field. And we want both of those to be positive situations, right? As we compete, that's great. We're also learning some character building skills as we're doing that. And so what myself, Jamila, and Dr. Williams shared with the students is this idea that as you are an athlete and in the spaces and places that you are in, you can begin to think about yourself, your team, and your community as you are in those spaces, and treat each of those people and each of those groups with dignity simply because they are a living human being. And that was the thread in which we talked with them about. It was an amazing experience. It was very interactive. The picture you see there is kids getting up and talking with each other about some experiences. You may know that there have been some not so positive experiences that have happened between school districts among athletes and potentially competition goers, and we're trying to get ahead of that by providing an opportunity for kids to really think about how they want to represent themselves in our school district when they're competing. Okay. And last but certainly not least, we have the window for our District Equity Advisory Committee application opening tomorrow, and it will close on November 18th. I'm really excited to welcome in a new group. Again, bittersweet because the entering of a new group means the exiting of the previous, but did want everyone to know that that will go live tomorrow. And so staff and families will receive communication about this on tomorrow, and we hope that we will have a wonderful problem will be to have hundreds of people who apply and have to narrow that down. But we look forward to that because we hope that for the next 2 years, we'll have a new group of community members, students, and staff to give a fresh perspective around our work with equity. And with that, those are the updates for teaching, learning, and equity. If there are any questions.
I'm aware, just out of just thinking about it, that I learned that the kinds of events that you're talking about, the kinds of conflicts on and off the field, one of them happened in the state Friday or Saturday. So this is a current and important thing you're doing, getting ahead of this, and I thank you for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was not just within our district. I want to make sure that I indicated that the 500 people in that space came from Kelso, Battleground, Camas, Washougal, Vancouver. There were all of the schools in our league were represented there, and each coach brought a student athlete with them. So we had a mixed group of folks as far as how they interacted with sports, and some really great conversations around what brought them to sports, what keeps them in sports. And they got to hear from a couple of people who did sports in school and how that experience impacted their lives and still does as adults. It was great. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Clarissa. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Next is the good news report. What's the good news, Craig? I guess I'll give you a minute to log in.
Whatever you want.
Well, I turned this on and that's live, so. Other way.
I don't have the best finger dexterity. A lot of broken fingers in my life, so I got it. Hello, board members, Superintendent Boyd, thank you as always. I will say that it's great to see students from Mr. Burris's, they're back there, right? The STEM program. I know that I've been able to go see that, and the Columbian did an article on that program. It's just amazing seeing those kids helping other kids. And I remember doing it while they were doing it via Zoom, so I'm glad that they're able to get into the classrooms again. Start the good news report with celebrations for Hispanic Heritage Month, which occurred all throughout our district at every level. I'm sharing something from Columbia Valley Elementary School that they actually shared with us. They shared these pictures with us, which is always great. They held their first Columbia Valley Spanish Club meeting. Students from all grades, they read stories, learned and practiced Spanish, and had an art project. At Legacy right here, students put together this wonderful art piece. I want to call it a mural, but I've been told by people that know better, a mural actually has to go on a wall. So it's an art piece. It's taped to the wall at Legacy and was there for all students to see. So they worked on this all throughout the month and before they put it up, and really well done by those students. And then we had a celebration here at the ASC. We had Adriana Garcia and Luisa Turner. Adriana is our Spanish family liaison, and Luisa is the FCRC person at Marion. And all throughout the month, on Wednesdays, they held Zoom meetings for community members and our families to get together and share stories during Hispanic Heritage Month and recipes. And then they had one final kind of party that they held here. And as you could see, families came in to celebrate their cultures. They wore clothing. They actually did a dance. Don't think Superintendent Boyd did the dance part, but as you can see, he was there.
Did eat the food. It was
Yes.
unbelievable.
And there was a lot of great food. I got to try some things I never tried before. It was a great experience. So that was great to have them here in our building. I want to move on to Breakfast with the Board is back now. We had to put it on a little bit of hiatus because of COVID. Our first Breakfast with the Board this month was at Evergreen High School. Board members Weatherspoon and Bradford were there. I think that they would agree that had a great diverse group of students that really shared information. It's always amazing to see our students and how honest they are and what they provide. So I think that was a great experience for the students, and I know the board members very much appreciated it. The next one in November will be at Covington Middle School. So we're going to go throughout the district at middle and high schools. Want to go down now to share what I want everyone to watch. That there's a video here, Columbia Valley Elementary School, the Portland Opera, their traveling school production of Beatrice. It was kind of a last-minute thing that Columbia Valley was able to secure this, and they sang this contemporary opera set in 1912 called Beatrice. It featured a young civil rights leader and journalist, Beatrice Morrow, as she took the new role at The Advocate, the first African-American newspaper in Oregon. And if you play just this little snippet of video, you can imagine the Columbia Valley students seeing this opera right there in their school. So really cool experience for them. Then I want to talk about staff recognition. We did honor both FCRC coordinators this month and principals. We had a very special event at Evergreen High School. CTE teacher Bill Culver won the Harbor Freight Tools for Schools Award. He was one of the finalists. They do 22 awards across the country, but he won a grand prize, which you could see the money total $100,000 that gets donated to Evergreen High School. It was a surprise, and he did not know it. And I will say that Principal Rancio did an amazing job with this plan to get him down there. It was the auditorium was full. Superintendent Boyd was there. The band was there. The cheerleaders were there. His wife was there. The problem was for the video, he walked one step in and he was kind of in the dark, and then he went backwards because he was like a little surprised. So Danny had to push him forward, and he was definitely surprised. He knew that he had applied for this, so he knew there was an opportunity, but they had said that the award, if there was going to be an award ceremony, it would be later on in the month. So it was just a wonderful surprise, a great presentation also from the Harbor Freight Tools for Schools people. So really wonderful day there, and well-deserved for Mr. Culver. So, if there's any questions, that's what I have.
That was neat.
Thank you.
All right, up next is comments by the school board.
So Director Bradford and I we were at Evergreen for the Breakfast with the Board, and it was really compelling to talk to the students one-on-one and hear from them what they like about school, what they're concerned about, what they're worried about. And just, I feel like we should do more of that, sort of like not once a month, but just maybe as often as we can, really, at every level, because just hearing from them directly is very impactful. I was also able to, in the past week, the Safe Students Advocating for Equity group, they had their planning meeting. And so it's a bunch of seniors who've been running this for the last year and a half or so, and so they're looking for more students to come and be involved. And then I want to thank the people at Chartwells and Evergreen Dining Services for the Discovery Kitchen Cook-Off. The cooking competition for fifth graders was spectacular. We had 6 fifth graders from a variety of schools, and they're going to do this over the course of the school year, and this was the first round. And 2 students, so the students cooked at Legacy High School healthy treats. We had delicious cookies and roll-ups, fruit kebabs. The winning student, one from Harmony, she made sushi from scratch. And then we had a student make spring rolls, or salad rolls, I mean. And so these kids are just amazing chefs, and they worked well with their team members, and the families were there to support them, and it was very fun, very, very great event for those kids. So thank you. Thank you for that. And it was fun to be a judge. Great, yeah. That was very fun.
My experience was a little wonkier than that. I had a focus on a meeting with the Online Learning Advisory Committee, if I've got my dates right here. And that's a WASDA assignment. So kind of putting that focus on, I was actually able to use some of WASDA's new tools with their positions and things and immediately be able to advise that committee based on the lens that comes from school boards. I'll offer you some more details, but at a later time, if you like. I haven't got that prepared, but it was a really productive moment. And then met with John Boyd about legislative priorities, which I'll have more to talk about in the workshop. But I am seeing a lot of alignment. I keep saying that, but I think it's worth saying. I'm seeing a lot of alignment among all the interest groups centered around education. Did a little work with Christine Chu on the WASDA board. I think that was in her role as like Director Area 2, trying to tease out special education data, the financials and so forth, and found well over 130 districts with most of the students in the state. These districts are the ones with the shortfalls. So we have data, we have stories, we have an opportunity for strong and unified advocacy. I'll tell you all about the details later. Oh, and before I forget, and I'm sorry I did that, also attended Dr. Campbell's drafting the vision work, and I just want to say I am so impressed with her and with her process and with the way she's a master teacher teaching master teachers. And it was a good experience to see how these ideas gel together into, I think, some of the results of that work were in Sue's report. This is going to turn out really well. Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Do you have anything? No? Glad to.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what Jackie was talking about with our students at Evergreen High School. It was very moving to hear their stories. And, you know, we think about kids just going to school, doing their thing, but so much of their perspective on what is happening at school is what they're coming from home. And there's just, it's amazing to me how so many of these kids just walk through our schools and nobody knows what's behind the face, you know, how they really feel or what's really on their minds. And so the fact that they were so willing to talk to us and share with us, it was really pretty moving for us to be witness to that. Jackie and I also had the opportunity to join a potential new group called the Vancouver Civic Youth Engagement team with two of our local city council members, Diana Perez and Bart Hansen. And then John was there, Jackie and I were there, a board member from Vancouver, and some of the superintendent also from Vancouver School District, and some of the staff from the city. And just kind of the start of brainstorming, you know, what can we do together to support kids in Vancouver, in the city of Vancouver area. And I think it could be really interesting how this fleshes out. So some things that we can try and overlap what we're doing together so that we can all be supporting our kids throughout the district. Because a lot of times our kids come back and forth between the two districts. And so having some kind of uniformity and awareness of what everybody's actually doing, I think is going to be really helpful. So Did you want to add anything to that, John?
Yeah, I just it was really stunning to see how much in alignment the two districts are in the city are in terms of wanting to not only get student voice, but respond to it in a way to provide opportunities for them. So I think this is this group has a lot of potential to do a lot of coordinated programming and thinking about what our youth need in the community, and that really excited me. I echo your comments.
That's all I have.
All right. Next, we have future agenda items. Any items to add?
Not at this time.
No? Okay. All right. Next is public comments. So, at this point, any community member wishing to address the board may do so during this time, as long as the comments are not personnel related or about an individual employee or student and are not legal in nature. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. Comments are to be directed to the board of directors as a whole and may not be addressed to any individual member of the board, the administrative staff, or the audience. Please state your name and district affiliation, if any. And the first on the list is Kimberly Eldon. Kimberly? No? Do we have anyone online, or is we all, okay. All right, next is Tracy Sattler. Welcome.
Of course, I thought I had a few more minutes, but. So, members of the board and Mr. Boyd, my name is Tracy Sattler. I currently work at Emerald Elementary as a paraeducator in special education. This is my 9th year in the district. I've lived in the Evergreen Public School community for 21 years. Both of my daughters have attended Evergreen Public Schools, kindergarten through 12th grade. In October 2014, I started as a long-term sub in what used to be referred to as a life skills classroom. I knew almost instantaneously I had found my passion, and being a paraeducator would soon become my profession. And yes, this job is a profession. Fast forward to now. So much has changed. As a result of the pandemic, I lost my amazing team. Everyone at that time was just supposed to be happy to have a job. Okay, fine, I said. Figure it out, show up, make a difference where you can in our community. I changed what I had control over and found my way to Emerald with an amazing team. My definition of community, it's a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, goals. The people considered collectively, especially in contexts of social values and responsibility. Evergreen School District is my community. I'm an employee, I'm a parent, and I'm a neighbor. Our work is so important, and I see it and I feel it when I'm out in the community. Recently, the district implemented the new neighborhood school model, which I absolutely support. My core values revolve around building community of equity and inclusion for all, especially special education population. In theory and boardrooms, this all sounded so great, but the paraeducators are now the ones on the front line expected to navigate this model with no infrastructure, no roadmap, and no compensation for the added workload. You simply can't expect us to wade through this mess without the support and financial compensation. I believe this model is partially working because of us, the paraeducators, those who stepped up to the challenge over the past 2 years, blindly mentoring new paraeducators who have no idea how much harder this job is now. We even find ourselves mentoring teachers who have never had the on-the-job training that we've had in special education. I defend our district with family, friends, and community. I've advocated for levies. Last year, I found myself defending Evergreen Public Schools when my family saw the toll this job had taken on my mental health and quality of life. The burnout is real. Many have left. So here I am to say enough is enough. Our community depends on us. We show up. And now it's your turn to show up and defend us. Parents of the community who are listening, we need your support. It's time to get loud and advocate for us. Special education is a journey I never planned, but I sure do love my tour guides, and that's your children. I would also encourage all parents to seek to understand what is happening as a result of the pandemic, neighborhood schools, staff shortages, and low pay. Volunteer in your community school, ask questions, keep asking. As a result, as this situation is affecting all students, Evergreen School District does have the best. And please, if you're gonna advertise us with competitive wages, you must at least match, if not surpass, our neighboring districts. I could go on and describe in detail my typical workday, tell you how many diapers I change, describe how often I utilize Ukuro pads.
Tracy, I'm sorry to interrupt. Your 3 minutes is up.
Okay, I wasn't, I was gonna say, but my time is up already. Bottom line is, we need to make more money for what we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jennifer Brunn.
I'll pass it to Brian.
What's that?
I'll go ahead and pass the next one to Brian, please.
Are you Jennifer? And you're skipping? Oh, okay. Next is Brian Ellerick. I'm sorry, did I say that correctly? Brian? Okay.
Mr. Boyd, members of the board, appreciate you allowing me to be here today. I'll apologize now if I get a little bit emotional. This is something that's happened, it's very real in my life, very recent. My name is Brian Ellerick, and I'm here to discuss the security issues that our schools are facing, specifically Henrietta Lacks High School, where my son is a student. It's come to my knowledge that students are actively doing drugs while at school. They're leaving classes, meeting in hallways, stairways, bathrooms, faculty rooms, empty classrooms to do drugs together. This is not hearsay or rumor. I know this is happening in the very way that no parent wants to know. The drugs that are used in school include nicotine, alcohol, marijuana, but also Vicodin, Percocet, snorting crushed up Percocet, and fentanyl. We've all been hearing about fentanyl in the news and how scary of a drug it is and how dangerous of a drug it is. And I'm here to tell you that it's here. It's in our schools. And again, this is something that I know. I wish I didn't have to know this. I feel that our schools are underprepared to deal with this. I know as a parent, I am too underprepared. But I also know that I'm going to put myself out there from now on to try to keep my child safe as the rest of the students, if I can. I know that drug use is not just a school problem. In fact, the school portion may only be the minority portion of the problem, but we have to start somewhere, and I feel that school seems like a pretty good place. I've spoken with several staff at Gila, and I've asked what the problem is. How are kids so easily leaving classrooms to meet in places throughout the school to do drugs? And I've heard a lot of different reasons. A simple one was a hall pass program that was simply broken. Students had easy access to hall passes. They could write them themselves or forge them, or often manipulate teachers into writing a pass for a destination with no checks or balances if the student arrived at that location, such as getting a pass to go see a counselor, something no teacher wants to deny a student to do, but the counselor wasn't even in school that day. I've been told that the pass program has now been overhauled. I don't know what that overhaul really looks like. The pass program was so broken before, it only had up to go, so I imagine it's improved. I'm deeply disturbed at how broken it was, how simply I was able to punch holes in it and show how it was ineffective. I've heard from several staff members and students actually that staffing is a major concern. At Gila, there is one security guard, a principal, an associate principal, 2 counselors, and a secretary. One security guard cannot be everywhere at the same time. And though Gila is one of the smaller schools in Evergreen School District, it's still a large 3-story building with a lot of square footage to cover. The other administrative positions I've listed have their jobs to do. They don't have time to do patrols in the areas to deter students. We need more staff in our schools. There's also a lapse in our security systems. Camera systems with large blind spots. I've heard of a stairway with no camera. This is the known stairway for students to meet at, not just for drug use, but other inappropriate actions. A few students and a couple of staff who could not deny it have said that students are meeting here for sexual relations in a school hallway during school hours. I'm bothered by what I've learned in a short amount of time. I'm personally affected by what is going on. I'm asking you, the school board, to discuss the situation and come up with real solutions. I would gladly sit in for planning meetings and discussions. I'm certain there are plenty of other folks that would also. I know that our kids are in danger, and I would like to help make school one less place for this danger. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Brandon Chase.
I'm going to adjust that a little bit just so you guys can hear me. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Brandon Chase. I'm an outreach coordinator over at Crestline Elementary School. Over the past couple of meetings, you have heard and will continue to hear personal stories from many of your classified employees. Stories detailing the negative impacts of buildings being understaffed. Stories detailing the physical and emotional safety concerns to both staff and students as a result of this understaffing. Stories detailing the educational concerns to students as a result of these unsafe environments. Therefore, I'm here to tell a different story. This story I want to tell is yours. Chapter 1 of this story begins by telling us what Evergreen Public Schools believes. Evergreen Public Schools has declared that they believe given the right environment, students are able to learn, to excel, and to develop the skills needed to face moral and ethical challenges. Unfortunately, Evergreen has allowed that environment to fade away. Evergreen Public Schools has also declared that they believe students are their priority and decisions must be made on the basis of what is best for each child. Unfortunately, this too no longer seems to be driving our decisions. As the story continues into the second chapter, we discover that Evergreen Public Schools has written their own outline for how they are committed to operationalizing these beliefs. Evergreen's committed to safe, orderly schools which are free of violence. Evergreen's committed to providing the necessary resources to meet the needs of all students, which includes highly engaging staff development that improves instruction. Evergreen's committed to eliminating the glass ceilings for students and staff. And most interestingly of all, Evergreen has committed to recruiting and retaining a highly qualified, diverse workforce. By this point, a well-informed listener would conclude it's no wonder the beliefs aren't being met. Evergreen's not following their own commitments. Anyone vested in this story is likely wondering what will happen next. The problem is, I don't know. Chapter 3 remains unwritten, and the only people that have the power to tell us the next chapter is you. Everyone connected to this district is sitting on the edge of their seats waiting to find out which direction we'll go next. Are we committed to these beliefs and these commitments, or are they just words on a page? I tell this story because I care about this district and each of the people in it. I grew up in this district, I graduated from this district, and was proud to begin working for this district. It breaks my heart to see the foundation crumbling away because of the fact that we don't want to be competitive in the workforce that's needed to maintain it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brandon. Jennifer Beeks. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Superintendent. Before I get started, I do just have to say, there's a big joke at Orchards Elementary where I work. It's like sit down with the soup, and I always say, oh, there should be board meeting with Beeks. So I'm kind of excited that we're here today and that I'm getting to meet you guys. So anyway, I'm Jennifer Beeks. I am the Family and Community Resource Center Coordinator at Orchards Elementary. I'm a member of PSE Large Group, and I'm a pro-tech by classification. As I stand here, I just really want you to know how much I appreciate your willingness to hear me. I am a huge fan of Evergreen Public Schools, and I am absolutely a fanatic for Orchards Elementary. It's just crazy how much I love that place. I love those families so much. I love it. I've worked really hard to build community in our school, and I counted up, and I've helped at least 9 parents in my years at Orchards to gain jobs at Orchards Elementary, rising them up, helping them out of their situations. It's amazing because they're from our community. They're our neighborhood people. They represent who Orchards is. They absolutely meet our equity goals, our inclusion goals. They're incredible people. They know the kids. They love them. Unfortunately, 7 of the 9 have already left our district because they needed better employment, higher wages, more hours, the things that we're asking for. This is our community, our neighborhood school, and we can't keep the people in our neighborhood. Such a bummer. It's just a small reason why the competitive wages are so important for our workforce. Wages attract people to their jobs, and continued competitive wages keeps quality people in the jobs. Hardworking, dedicated, committed to the high quality of education that we want to give. Our union is asking for more, not just for us, but for the students that we serve, the families that we help, and the staff that we work with. I don't think we're expecting the moon, and I don't think we're asking for wages or benefits far beyond what is reasonable. We just want to have fair compensation comparable to other people in our community. We just want to be valued. I'm proud of the job that I do. And unfortunately, the way things sit right now, I will be devalued in the next 3 years. It just really hurts my heart. And as we've gathered and met countless meetings over this contract, I heard this constant cry for additional training and planning time. And I thought, how lucky are we as a district? Seriously, we have a group of people that are literally begging for the opportunities to learn, grow, and help more. That's what they're asking for. We should be so excited and proud of our paras that this is what they're asking. They're valuing education, they're valuing the staff that they work with, they're valuing the kids that they help. This is awesome. This is not a thing that we should be ignoring. We hire great people. And last but not least, I know my little red thing already came up, is safety. And I won't go into all of the countless times that I've witnessed violence and unsafe situations at our school. Lots of people have told the stories. They're true. I'm in there every day. They are true. It's a bummer. But I'm here to speak for the students who also have to live it. With every room clear, every act of violence, dangerous behavior, threat of harm to our students that they have to hear, witness, or be a victim of, there is a trauma and there's a loss of time that our kids aren't learning. The thing that we value
Jennifer,
most.
sorry I have to interrupt you, but the time is up.
That's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Beeman. Welcome.
Good evening, board. It's an urgent situation that brings me here, as I hate to speak in front of people in public, so this is obviously a little bit of a stretch for me. I'm more comfortable in my classroom. As I listen to all the presentation about the district and what we're doing and these positive things, it brought to mind the first line of A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. I feel like our district has a great plan, and there's a lot of things that go into play. Then, as I think of my sports career and how it went, like sometimes you have a plan and then putting it in place is a lot different story. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the staff in the district who have been through significant trauma in the school setting, for the students who have experienced the significant trauma of being in the school setting and seeing violence perpetrated against peers or against other staff. It hurts my heart to say this. I've been here for 9 years in Hollingsworth Academy, and we are obviously the extreme end of that spectrum. But when I hear of it in the gen ed setting as well, it leads me to believe that we're in a crisis of sorts. And I don't know how to solve it, but I know that there's proactive steps that need to be taken, because we have a lot of staff who have thought about other careers, who are valued, amazing people that I work with, and I say, we don't want to lose you. But it gets to that point when you see these things happening over and over, and we don't know what the game plan is. And it feels like there's been a loss of discipline. And I know there's staffing issues, and I think COVID had a role in that, but those are not excuses several years later as we move forward. So I just want you to know the urgency that we live with in this world. And I wake up in the morning and I still love to go to work. I thought last night something's wrong with me because I was excited to go to work this morning. But I do love it, and we love it. But we are facing these challenges where we have kids assaulting staff repeatedly, and there's the steps that are being taken to not only support the student, because continued behavior is going to lead them down a bad path when they turn 18. We're not talking about small things. We're talking about incarceration at some point. We don't want that for our students. It's the last thing we want. So how do we show teachers and staff that there's support for them? And I don't know what this whole process goes through, but I think at some point it'd be great to look at having a teacher-led safety team that we kind of brainstorm these things and figure out how we can best support each other, because we are experiencing what staff, the support staff are experiencing. And I didn't know they were going to be here tonight, so I just did this because I feel passionate about this. And I just want you to understand, like, we put our hearts and souls on the line, and we need to feel like there's someone behind us supporting us, because we have limited authority. I mean, we're there to build relationship and build these skills for kids, but we don't have the ability to say, listen, you assaulted several staff. We'll see you tomorrow. Like, how do we navigate those waters? So I appreciate your time. I wanted to just get my piece out because it'll help my brain be more peaceful with the process. So I appreciate so much for you guys being here, and I hope we all successfully conquer this.
Thank you, Matt, for your comments. Rose Backman. Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Rose Bachman. I'm a Class 2 paraeducator at Mountain View High School. I love my job, and I thank you to the board and Superintendent Boyd for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I would like to thank you for your last offer. I do feel like it's a small step in the right direction, but there does leave some things open. Every para that I know that is working is there because they want to be there. We care about our students tremendously. We want them to be successful, and we push them as much as we can to help them be the best that they can be. The ultimate goal is to impact that student's life to be the best person they can be. And the problem that we've got is being so understaffed, we're stretched so thin. My question to you is, how can you expect the students, our schools, and the district to achieve the goals that you've set for us when we can't offer a competitive wage to entice enough people to be here? And the other result of that is that then we're now overstaffed, or we're understaffed, and we're stretched even further. Other local districts are paying a higher rate for their paras, and I guess due to that, we're not feeling quite as appreciated. You have a lot of loyal and faithful employees who've been with the district for 10, 15, 20 plus years, and I do feel that they're not being paid what they're worth. Honestly, it feels kind of insulting to not be valued. We want to be included. We want to be a part of this family, and at Mountain View, I do feel that I'm a part of that Thunder staff, but I don't necessarily feel like it comes all the way to the district, and we want to work on that. We want this relationship to be a good one. Another thing that would be super helpful for us is we would like to have a little extra time each day, either in the before school, after school, to meet with our teachers for collaboration. I have, at least currently on my caseload, 45 students I see every single day. I don't have time to even check my email sometimes, let alone work with the teacher to help the student perform a little bit better. Not only do we have that problem, we're short on ELL staff, so that plus the discipline issues and the other behaviors are falling to us. So what we're actually asking for is the time before and after school to help work with that. We would love to be paid for the training all of our time, not just some of it. I personally feel that I know it as life skills. Besides Hollingsworth, I feel that all life skills class should be paid more because of their work environment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Gary Wilson.
Yes, thank you. First, before I start, I just want to share the concern that the one gentleman had over his safety and the drug issue. Yeah, that's concerning, and appreciate if you guys would look into that. First, I want to thank Superintendent Boyd for offering to myself and my friend Phil and a few others to meet with us individually rather than present at a board setting. Look forward to that. Thank you. Also, I want to thank you for starting to scratch the surface on the poor OSPI math standards, the percentage of children meeting that standard. And I had to leave the previous meeting early, but watching it online, and I sent Lori Stoll an email just right before the meeting, just curious about getting a little more information about one of the graphs. I believe it was Carissa that was sharing that night. It was the percent EPS students meeting standards in mathematics, and it was looking at different ethnicities and even a socioeconomic kind of factor in there. And my question is, I just want to find out how many students represent each of those categories. I know there's about 23,000 students overall, and it'd be good to start breaking down that number, see what it represents. But then again, I want to definitely say that, although that's a start at looking at what makes up that number, you really have to look at other factors as well. Otherwise, you're subjectively looking at where you want and not looking objectively at all the factors that would represent these numbers, including curriculum and the teachers involved. I know looking at I don't know how much time I have left, it disappeared. But I know looking at the update from fall of 2021 to spring of 2022 for the OSPI standards, math, we brought it up a little bit to 25%, but sadly science went from 45% to 35%, and English came down 1%, but overall, of the three academics, we're averaging 33%, so 1 out of 3 students are meeting standards in English, math, and science, and that's pretty bad. So math is a good start, but apparently the other subjects need to look at too. And when I look at chemists, they actually went up, and they had good numbers to start with, but they're averaging about 70% in those 3 academics. So again, what is chemists doing that we're not? And yeah, the difference in ethnicity and socioeconomic may be a factor, but it's not everything. There's more factors. So yeah, let's see what best practices they're doing compared to what we can learn from that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right. And with that, we'll go ahead and conclude tonight's board meeting. Thank you all for joining us, and have a good evening.